Can you imagine your life where money is your friend, working with you to achieve all your dreams and desires? If you struggle seeing money as your friend, then join Kathy Cook Noble, financial advisor and educator on understanding how your money can work for you. It is possible. Now, here is Financially Speaking with Kathy Cook Noble.
Good afternoon and welcome to Financially Speaking. I'm excited to be with you here today on the Inspired Choices Network. And I know I have been absent the last 4 weeks or thereabouts, and I've had the show has been handled and co-hosted by Karen Cook, who I think you've all gotten to know, and frankly, you've probably figured out that that's my sister. So she has had the unfortunate, I'm going to say, pleasure of listening to me ramble on for so many years about finances and how much fun it is. And I've had her disagree with me about how much fun it is, but now I've convinced her that it is fun, and she's loving it, and she's learned so much about it. And that's why I was excited that she would be able to fill in for me, because who better than my own protege, let's say. So anyway, I'm super grateful for Karen to fill in and help me out while I'm off on my adventure, which I'm going to share with you tonight. And I'm also excited that listening to her show and getting different perspectives, because it really is all about perspective when it comes to finances. So I found that in my own life that there's people that, you know, we all hear about the analogy of people watch the same sporting event and they see two totally different games, and the ref makes a phone call and it's completely different from what they would have thought. But finances are very similar to watching a sporting event, and I think that people look at it totally different, and their mindset can be so very, very different. So people who have the fear of money, the fear of understanding their finances, the fear of talking to people about it because they're scared they're not going to look smart, they're going to look like they should be farther ahead. They're judging themselves on where they are, that they aren't in the right spot, they are in the right spot, they're too far ahead, they're not far enough ahead, there's too much debt, there's not enough debt, there's just all kinds of things that our mind does to us in so many different ways, but specifically in finance. And that's what I found in my journey in life, is that people just look at finance different. I always thought that people were looking at the same way I was, that it was super fun and it's easy to understand your own stuff, and why wouldn't you enjoy it? But as we've learned through the years that not everybody likes the same things, and not everybody learns at the same level or frankly in the same way. So we came to Financially Speaking, our show here, to break down the myths and the confusion and maybe just take away some of those fears that people have about finance. And that was our whole intention of our show here, to just talk about topics each week that and everybody up there understands, that they've at least heard of it. They may not completely understand what the concept is or how it works or how it affects them, but they've at least heard of it. And that's the beauty of what we're able to do here on the Inspired Choices Network, not just here on Financially Speaking, but on the Inspired Choices Network as a whole. We're able to really focus on what inspires people, what helps people make their life better, what works just for you, what's specific. Not everything is exactly the same for everybody, and that is one of the most important things that I think we have to learn, is that everybody needs help in different areas at different times and to varying degrees. And there's just, on Inspired Choices Network, we have, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there is a show for everybody, that if there's a subject matter or a challenge out there that you're having, then you can find a friend on the Inspired Choices Network to help you with that and help break that down. So that's one of the beauties of this network that I'm so happy and proud to be part of. And I think for my part of it, I play a small role within Financially Speaking, and our show is to break down the financial myths, which I know can sometimes overwhelm people. And for the most part, they do overwhelm people. And specifically, I say that because women are the ones that I find in my personal practice that are overwhelmed the most. And, for those of you who've listened to the show before, I usually start out with, and I give you this small little two-liner about how in my day job, I'm a financial advisor and I own a bookkeeping company. And that is all true and well. but I never really get into a whole lot more about me and about that until tonight. So good, bad, or ugly, I'm going to share a little bit about who I am and what I do and why I do it. And it's not just about so that I can teach you some finance fun, because it's certainly, to me, it is a lot of fun. And I think it's easy for everybody to understand if they're explained it in the right way. So let me just give you a little bit of history and go back in time and share with you a little bit of what I have done to my sister. And when she's on again, I'm sure she'll confirm that, she was the guinea pig all the time. And I'd always have to explain stuff to her and get excited about stuff. And really that's where her learning, and I'm going to say love affair of finances, has come from too. So I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that, just because Karen's not on, she can't disagree with me tonight. So there we have it. So let's go back 12 years in time. And I had several girlfriends that smart, well-educated women who were a lot of fun to be with, a lot of fun to hang around with, a lot of fun to have conversations with. And, you pick your friends, whether they're male or female. You have a group of friends that you can go out, you have great conversation, and you talk about different topics. I found when the word finance came up, that dreaded F word, which we'll talk about, there was always a little bit of, you see the change in the body language. You can see the change in the facial expressions. You could hear the change in their voice about finances, because it really was uncomfortable for them. So what ended up happening was I would get calls, and I talked to my different friends one-on-one, and they'd have a question and they'd call me, and I was super excited because I'm happy to share, all the years of studying and all the information I've been able to read about and be participating in on a daily basis, and live, events, and just my daily job was always finance. So super happy to share that with them. And what I found was it was a very common theme that ran between my girlfriends. They were certainly capable of understanding their finances, but the industry's let them down in a way where they just don't get it explained to them right. They don't have somebody that takes the time to say, listen, let me put it in words that you'll understand, instead of trying to impress you and use big words and quote whatever metrics or mathematical equations get used that you would hear about or see about online, and talk to you about graphs and charts. Let's just talk to you in plain language, because we all know that every industry has their own jargon, and finance is certainly no exception. There's more acronyms there than I think you'd ever want to see. I think I'm going to go out on my guess here is that the medical profession might have more acronyms actually, but the financial acronyms are significant, to say the least. So instead of trying to share knowledge, I'll say, or impart their knowledge onto people, especially women, what the common theme was, and I'm not saying everybody's guilty of this in the industry, but the common theme that I got the last 10 to 12 years from my girlfriends was they would go into their meeting with their advisor, and the advisor was typically a man, and they would look at their husband and talk to the husband, and they would sit there and not too often ask questions and very rarely understand, and they just didn't want to look stupid or sound stupid, so they just didn't say anything. So they'd leave the meeting not knowing really a whole heck of a lot more than when they went in. So I said to them, well, that just doesn't seem right to me, and what can we do about this? So I started a club, and it was called WISE. Another acronym, I know, but it was Women WISE. And the WISE was for Women's Investment and Social Exchange. And the reason I came up with that was because it's not just about a classroom. I don't want it to be boring. I wanted it to be more like a book club or a cocktail reception event or just a glass of wine with friends. So we had it at my house. So I would have my friends come over, and we would sit down and we would have a topic a month, and we would just go through what that topic means. For example, one month we might talk about what are the different kinds of mortgages. And you might get homework to say, if you don't know what kind of mortgage you have or where your mortgage is or what your mortgage interest rate is or what the term of your mortgage is or how much time's left on it, on your mortgage as far as amount owing, et cetera, all that kind of stuff. So your job would have been, your homework would have been that month to come back to the group and report on the research of your own mortgage. Because the truth be told, we just need to know our own stuff. We don't need to understand what our neighbors do and what our cousin's doing, what our uncle's doing, what our third cousin twice removed is doing in another country. We just need to understand our own stuff. So that's how WISE came about. So we'd meet, we'd have 30 minutes of conversation about a specific topic. It could be banking fees, it could be mortgages like I mentioned, it could be my personal favorite. I'm going to give a plug right now. You got to have a will, you got to have a will, you got to have a will. Everybody needs a will. So that would be a topic, and the reasons why you need a will, all these different areas that we would have conversations about. And then we would treat it like a book club. So we would have a 30-minute conversation. Then we would have, 30, 40 minutes of wine and cheese or snacks or whatever the case may be, and just a social event, and just hang out like friends hang out. So it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was educational in a fun way, and people were learning about their finances. So fast forward, and here we are today, and I always thought wouldn't it be nice if finances came with a manual? And wouldn't it be great if we had a community of people who were like us, and just we got together and we could talk about finances in a very safe, comfortable, and easy way. So that's what happened. I decided to write a manual is really what it came down to. And that's exactly what it started out as. It started out as a manual for WISE, and it grew into a book for women understanding finance. So it's specifically for women. And the title of the book is All Women Should Use the F Word, A Guide to Loving Your Finances. Because I know from experience and talking to women, and if you're one of those out there, you are certainly not alone, where you almost feel overwhelmed to hear even the word finance, and you think of it as something that just tenses you right up. So that's really the progression of what happened. I had no deep desire to go out there and become an author. I had no desire to go out there and start doing speaking events about a book that I hadn't planned on writing. I just started with thinking that really it would be so great if something came with a manual when you started to talk about finances. So if we could just get a manual and say, okay, what are these acronyms that everybody uses all the time? And why do I need a will? And what do you mean there's different kinds of mortgages? And wow, you mean there's different kinds of life insurance? And do I need life insurance at all? And if I do need life insurance, how much do I need? And what about my kids and their education plan? And these are questions that women across the country, across North America, and I hazard to say around the world, have questions all the time, every year, to varying degrees and to varying stress levels. And I think that for me, I was in the position where wouldn't it be great if we could have a community forum and really help each other out, give them that comfort and safe area where we could just ask questions and not feel like we're stupid or we should know this, or, at our age we should have known this, or at our age we should have more, or we should be in less debt, or instead of judging ourselves and putting all this pressure that we put on ourselves, and not just in finance, we do it in so many other areas, but to just take some of that pressure off and say, hey, you know what, we're going to come together as a group of women that can understand our own stuff. And you know what, if I don't have kids and you have kids, you need to understand about kids' education. And if I have a business and you don't have a business, I need to understand a little bit more about how my business fits into my personal finances. And to what level do I need to involve different people? Like when do I need to do a will by myself versus do I need to do it with a lawyer versus can I just get a package from my local store and do it? Like at what level do I need to involve other people? Because I want to make sure I'm also very financially efficient, because a lot of people make money and they spend money in ways that aren't very efficient, and it's not their fault sometimes. They just don't know, or they go to people who just aren't the right fit for them. And that's where I always like to encourage people to talk to somebody and make sure you're comfortable with them. So we're going to go to our first break for tonight. I hope you'll hang out with me for a bit. I want to talk to you about the Women Wise group and how it has grown from my living room to where it is today. I'll give you the update on that. I want to share with you some information that's in my book, which I'm going to just call our manual for women's financial understanding. and I'll share some of that information with you. I'll share a little bit more about where we're at, and as always, I'm happy to have questions, so please call in or visit us in the chat room, and we will answer your questions there. So we're going to take our first break. You're listening to Financially Speaking with myself, Kathy Cook Noble, on the Inspired Choices Network. When we return, we're going to continue to talk about finances and understanding and what we can do for ourselves. We'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. This is Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255. Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy@bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Kathy Cook Noble on the Inspired Choices Network, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about me and what I've been up to and where I've been for the last few months, finishing off my book and getting ready to do some speaking engagements that I was booked for, and just share some of that with you. And before the break, we were talking about having a manual of sorts, if you will, for finance for women. And I talked to you about how the Women Wise group was born in a typical fashion of most businesses, to be honest. You know, it's usually you hear about how Disney was born in the garage of Walt Disney's house, and from there it grew into the empire that it is. And Apple grew from Steve Jobs' parents' garage to the empire that it is. So I think it's, when I said that, it kind of hit me. I was like, wow, you know, most people, they start their business in their garage, their basement, their living room, whatever the case is. Now, Women Wise is not my business. It's my passion, to be honest. And for that reason, I've expanded it, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later. So before we went to the break, I was sharing with you a little bit about the book that I was working on that you wouldn't have known about because I didn't really talk about it before. But now that it's in the final stages where the edits are done and the prettiness is being put on it, the bells and whistles of getting it published. So those are the pieces that are being done now. The book is all done, it's all edited, and it's ready to be printed, and it will be printed the end of the month. So it will definitely be available. And I'm going to be giving a few copies away on our show here for different programs that we're going to be running, and I'm happy to share that with you because I think it's really important that we have a manual of sorts. So all women should use the F word. A Guide to Your Finances is what the name of the book is, and I want to share with you a little bit of it today because that's why I wrote it, to share it with you all. I used to get asked the questions all the time, and now I've just compiled different cases and different stories together with different concepts and how finances work to hopefully take away that fear and that myth. And out of that has come the Women Wise group. So it's not just here's the manual, off you go, good luck. It's here's the manual, join our group, have a connection with other women in the community. It's going to be an online group that we now have, and it's going to be available for people to join, ask questions, have downloadables and printables for example, there's a budget on there, which is really you're tracking your cash, which we've talked about before on the show. There's information on why you need a will and how you go about getting it. And we've done a show just on that because it is such an important topic. And I'm never afraid to take advantage of the time that we can talk about it, because a will is something that everybody needs, whether or not you have kids, whether or not you think you have a sizable estate. Everybody has an estate. An estate is all your stuff. So just in a short sidebar, I want to talk to you about your stuff. So your estate is everything that you have. So if you have a cat, you have a dog, you have a goldfish, you have a pair of shoes, you have stuff. And when you are not here to speak for yourself, you need somebody else that's going to do it for you. And that's either when you are alive and not well. That's where you have a power of attorney, and that's the person who makes sure that your finances are looked after for you while you are incapacitated to do so. And once you are back to being able to do it yourself, then you take it back over. Power of attorney just looks after your money and make sure the bills get paid and the taxes get paid and whatever the case may be while you're not able to. The healthcare directive is the person who's going to make sure your healthcare wishes are looked after. So we all have different opinions and wishes for our health if anything were to happen to us. We all come from various backgrounds and different religions, and whatever the case may be, people don't know that. And it's up to you to make sure that somebody's there to speak for you. So if something happens to you where you're incapacitated, you have to make sure that your person that is in charge of your healthcare has a piece of paper that says, I am the one that makes the decisions for you for your healthcare while you're not able to. And that's very, very important because it quite literally could be between life and death. So that's important. And along with that, you do your will. Your will is your last conversation with the world, and that tells everyone exactly what your wishes are. There's no secret, there's no guess, there's no confusion. And I encourage everybody. I don't do wills. I'm happy to refer people out because I do know people that do wills, of course. I don't do them, but I know how important they are. So I always tell people to make sure they have a will. Now, if you have a cat, a dog, if you have children, even if you think, well, I don't have any money or I don't have any investments, well, that's fine, but you still have an estate and you still have children and pets that need to be looked after if anything were to happen to you. So I encourage everybody. I don't know how to stress it enough. There are so few people out there that have a will, and I always tell them, get a will. Everybody can have a will. This does not have to be complicated. This does not have to be overwhelming. You can do it yourself. You can get the membership for companies that offer wills to do them for you. I'm happy to share my contacts with you if you need a will. So just write in, email, call, whatever. I'm happy to give you the information. And the cost is very affordable for a will. And again, that's another thing. Don't be afraid to shop around. Make sure you get the right product and you get the right person helping you with it if you need a person. So get a will. That is my line for today and my encouragement for you today. So when I went through, and of course, no surprise, there's going to be a section on wills in the book because I feel very, very strongly about it and very passionately about it because I've seen people who pass away without a will and the stress it causes on the family, and not just the family. When you think about the emotional stress, add to it now the financial stress, because what ends up happening is the government steps in and they become the one that looks after your estate. So the very last act of your life is going to be having the government look after all your stuff. Somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't know your family, doesn't know your wishes, and they're the ones that are going to administer how things are dissolved for you from your estate. I can assure you, I don't need to talk to everybody in the world, but I can't imagine that there's one person out there that thinks it's a good idea and that's what they really want to do. So make sure you have a will. Make sure you take that pressure off your family, because when something happens to you, you want them to be able to grieve without all the extra stress. It's going to be stressful enough. So make it easier on your family. So when I started writing the book, it really grew from what started as a manual for the investment club, which is for women wives. And I just started putting together little bits and pieces, like a to-do list, for example. And we have a to-do list that we did in our group and just said, hey, what do you need to do? Well, you need to get a will. Yes. You need to have it done by this date. And you set goals for yourself. And then what ends up happening from that is you're like, okay, now that we start to get our structure into place, now we need to look at income protection. Do we or do we not have life insurance? Do we or do we not need it? What do we have that's covered under group benefits? Do we need those? Are we covered our spouse? Do we have a spouse? If we don't, then we need to make sure we're covered ourselves. And then we start looking at stuff like, where's your money at? What are you paying in bank fees? Do you have any idea how much money you're spending? How much money's coming in? How much money's going out? These are all questions that we started to ask ourselves, and this is all in the checklist that we had. If we have children, are we interested in doing an education plan? And I just thought, wouldn't it be nice if it was all written out? So I wrote it out, and I said, here you go, here it is. And that's on the website. Download it for free. It's just a to-do list that says, hey, these are some things that we should consider doing, and seeing if we need to do them. And if we do need to have that done, then let's set a goal date for us, because we can all say that we want to do something. I mean, we all might want to be super fit, but if we don't set a date to go to the gym, that's just not going to happen. We're not going to wake up one morning and have the body we want. So these are things that I thought would be very helpful for people, so I put it together. We talk about where your money is. We talk about the benefits of a budget, and I know some people, get a little squirmy when I say that word, but it's cash. It's just tracking your cash. What's coming in, what's going out, where is it? That's all. Then we talk about debt, and people are afraid that, if you have debt, well, so what? A lot of people do. Most people do. So let's talk about it, and let's get it fixed, and let's figure out a plan. And maybe some of the debt's good, because not all is bad. So let's stop beating ourselves up hoping it's going to go away, because, wishing it away isn't a good strategy. Let's just deal with it and be happy about it, because I found also what happens is people feel relief once you get something out. Sometimes when you're carrying that secret, you just feel you're so upset, or you're so tight about it because the secret about somebody that isn't good, and you can't say anything and eat up. And then finally it gets out and you're able to work through whatever the problem is, the relief that you feel. Well, all that stress before is unnecessary, but we go through it. We all do it. We put ourselves through this stress, and we don't need to. But now my goal is, and it's not gonna answer every question you ever had, but it will answer some of the basic questions about your finances, so we can just take a deep breath and stop stressing ourselves out about it. So you know what? Let's see.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking Radio Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking Radio Show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Financially Speaking Radio Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy at bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Kathy Cook Noble on the Inspired Choices Network, and today I'm sharing with you the topic of my new book, All Ladies Should Use the F Word, A Guide to Loving Your Finances, and the Women Wise group and community that I started many, many, many years ago. Before we went to the break, it was a silence, and sometimes that's how it feels when you're talking about finances. Some people just are abruptly cut off or dropped or leave or get scared. And I'd like to say that was our plan before the break, but sometimes things just happen. And that's what we do here. So we just help everybody deal with what happens. And before that, we were deciding to do a shock and awe where we cut the conversation off. We were talking a little bit about the different topics in the book, like our to-do list and the checklist that I provide, and all these are free downloads and printables from my website, womenwise.ca, and it is just being redone right now, but I will give it to you. You're welcome to check it out anytime, womenwise.ca. You can download any of the free printables, the free checklists, and all that stuff. And you're certainly welcome to look at all the information on the website. I'm happy to share everything with you. Now back to some of the information I was wanting to share with you as well, that I share with some of my girlfriends, which is how the book came about. It was a manual of sorts that came together. And we talk about how money grows. We talk about what we're looking at with retirement, it's not just a financial question. We want to talk about how we teach our kids about money. We want to talk about investing. And I don't mean, when I say investing, I know when we go in and talk to our advisor, they start talking to you about different funds and codes and terms that you just kind of start to glaze over. I know I've seen people do that, and then I realize that I've gone into that mode, and I bring myself back, and I'm like, okay, let me talk to you in English now. So investing in the book is for understanding what the terms are. So people, they hear terms like mutual funds and MERs, and they're like, what is that? And you're like, okay, well, let's talk about this. So a mutual fund simply is a collection of stocks that's in the same basket. So you're buying a basket, and inside that basket is a bunch of different stocks. So you get to own parts of different companies inside of this basket, which is very cool, right? So that's just what we talk about. Let's say it in English. And it doesn't happen. And if somebody just says to you, let me just give it to you in plain language, then it's easier to understand the conversation after that point. But when you start to lose somebody just on the term mutual fund or MER, then the rest of the conversation gets lost. And that's where I find people need the most help. So let's just start at the beginning and make it make sense. So an MER, by the way, because I'm not one of those that's going to leave you hanging, an MER is the management expense ratio, and that's what the fee is that goes with a mutual fund. So it's obviously costs money for somebody to manage the money. So you get these super smart portfolio managers who have this magic ability to be able to handle this all day, every day, and it's called active management, where they're actively managing your money. That's the mystery in it. Active management means they're actively managing it every day. And these guys are, and ladies are the ones, and there's a fee for it. And out of your mutual fund, there is a management expense ratio, and that's what they get paid. And when you think about all they do and the expertise and how many people get paid out of that small MER, it actually blows my mind, because I think it's really quite small compared to how many people. It's not just the fund manager, it's the researching assistants, it's the their assistants for software and like the IT stuff, and it's the fees for your advisor like me and the company that I work for, and there's a whole lot of stuff that goes in it. So we talk about, what are these things and how do we understand it? Because once we understand that, then we're going to understand what our money's in. So my goal is not to make everybody an advisor and to understand all the different funds and companies and where they are and how they work and what's the best fund company to work with and who's the best portfolio manager and all that. That's not the intention, because that's where I think people get lost. The intention is all the stuff that happens before. That's what we want to understand. And that stuff is, what are these acronyms and terminology? What's the most important checklist that I need to look after? How do I plan for my future? How does money grow? Like, what do people talk about when we talk about this? If we're going to free ourselves from debt, how are we going to do that? And what are we going to do to take control of our debt? What debt's good? What debt's not good? These are things that the book talks about, and it gives a lot of case examples for it, and it gives a lot of information, I hope, on how you can go about doing these things. That was my intention for it. And from that, I invite you always to just download anything in the book for free from womenwise.ca. And we can certainly just share that with each other and help each other do better. So from the book, the All Women Should Use the F Word, A Guide to Loving Your Finances, you will also be given all the downloadables at the womenwise.ca site. So it's kind of funny, because when I wrote the manual, I call it, for Women Wise, I didn't at the time plan on doing a mission statement. That wasn't what the intention was. This was a conversation between friends is what this was. This was me and a bunch of my girlfriends and some of their friends and the small group that we were come together and just have a nice conversation, a nice evening once a month. And, just like a book club, only our book club talked about finance and there might have been some wine and cheese involved. So what's funny though, because when I look at the manual now, going back all those years, I had my purpose or the goal of doing it. It was to learn from other women financial and investment ideas for a prosperous future, to enjoy fellowship with other women and have fun. And I look at it now and I think, geez, that's kind of like a mission statement that, I accidentally wrote. But I think that's exactly what we want to do. We want to enjoy fellowship with other women. We want to have fun, and we want to learn from each other, because there's so much knowledge that we have. And gosh, isn't that something? If we can share with each other and help each other do better and have better lives. And I know this is going to be very philosophical, but think of it like, this is how I think of it. If you want to think of it like this with me, if we each know something and we share it with each other in a community of other like-minded women, and then we share this with our kids, the next generation, if we don't have kids. But if we share it with the next generation, and we're able to make that next generation even more efficient and more excited and aware of what's happening with their finances. And I'm not talking high, fancy finance, mergers, acquisitions, stuff you see on TV. I'm talking your own stuff. So we're going to be very, very efficient with our own stuff, and we're going to save and do well and plan for the future. And we're going to share that with the next generation. So our kids are going to be even better than we are. And then they do the same with their kids. Can you imagine? And this is what I think of all the time. If we had a world where the next generation was more efficient and more understanding of their finances in a simple, everyday kind of way, and that meant they'd need less support from the government, less services, less drain on the system, and they in turn would be able to help other people and help people more, and philanthropy would grow. So there'd be more people donating money. That would take our entire world to a whole new level of supporting each other and making the world a better place. And I think of it, and obviously I'm biased towards finance, as we all know, but I think of it and I think, there's so many groups out there getting support from other charities who do great work and are very good and supportive in what they do. And if we could get the next generation, the generation after that, to be so financially aware and so financially good with their own money and so efficient that they then would need less public funds and they'd be able to help these charities, we would elevate the world to a much better level, a much better place. People would be happier. There'd be less stress. There'd be less need for support programs. I just think the whole world would do better and be happier, and I would see something like that. And when we did the Women Wise group, I do want to share with you a couple of things that were in my original manual, which you probably won't, not probably, you won't see in the book. But I do want to share a couple of things with you because it was a lot of fun for me, and they still ring true. You will see them eventually on the site because I will be sharing that with you. But I think it's just a lot of fun sometimes when you look back and see what you had. So Truett Cathy, and this is going to be for my American friends, who was the founder and CEO of Chick-fil-A. He wrote a book called How Did You Do It, Truett? And in that, he had 11 do's and don'ts of proven success, which I think are just awesome. His number one was, don't be burdened with personal debt, like car payment, house payment, establish a nest egg, live simple. And then number two was, start early as a teenager. Concentrate on what brings you happiness in your career. Have a tremendous want-to determination. Number three, he said, sacrifice material things and reward yourself later. The fourth one was, shortcut to success is to observe what is working in the lives of others. Teenagers observe mature individuals. Number five was, don't try to please all people. Six was to set priorities in the proper order. The seventh was to expand cautiously, grow your business cautiously. Number eight was, franchising may or may not be good for your particular business. Use it cautiously. Number nine was, be prepared for disappointments. Many successful individuals experience failure. Number 10 was, be good to people. Courtesy is very cheap, but brings great dividends. I love that one. Number 11, invite God to be involved in every decision. God gives us a brain to use, common sense. You can do it if you want. God has given each of us talent. Maybe yours is yet to be discovered. We honor God with our success. He designed us to be winners. And for those of you who have a different belief, whether it's the universe or a higher energy or higher power, whatever the case may be, you can substitute that in because it's the very same concept. And I'm sure Truett Cathy would be okay with that. So I just thought he had some very good do's and don'ts of proven success. And he makes it very, very simple. And from that is where I read that many years ago, and I was so impressed with the model of the Chick-fil-A franchise and business and their kindness and their generosity. And I just thought, you know what, they're the exact example of you start out small and you build up something. And it's not just in business, it's your family and it's your charity that you're part of or whatever job that you're doing. We all have this great ability to be able to do this stuff. So that's entirely how Women Wise got started. That's where the book came from. The book is going to be published and available the end of the month. It's going to be on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all your sites that you would typically expect for books. And of course, I'm going to share it with all my listeners and give opportunity to get free books sent out to you and share all the information that I have. So we're up to our third break for tonight, and I'm going to go out on purpose this time for the break. So you're listening to Financially Speaking with myself, Cathy Cook Noble, on the Inspired Choices Network. When we return, I'm just going to wrap up a little bit about what we're doing here on the Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network and just talk a little bit more about money. We'll be right back.
Too many of us get caught up in the unreal lives of reality television and complete to acquire stuff, which is setting us up to accumulate lots of debt. We're scared, confused, and don't know who to talk to. By tuning into Financially Speaking radio show with financial advisor and educator Cathy Cook Noble, you'll learn tips you can use to improve your financial health, which in turn can improve your overall health and make for a very happy life. Live a life you can afford and enjoy. It is possible. Listen for Financially Speaking radio show every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Financially Speaking Radio Show with financial advisor and educator Kathy Cook Noble. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to Kathy at bookkeepplus.ca. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Kathy Cook Noble on the Inspired Choices Network, and today we have been talking about the Women Wise community group and the book that is coming out that I was happy to write and share. It's like a manual, and it's called All Ladies Should Use the F Word, a guide to loving your finances. And from that book, it's essentially a manual for understanding the various concepts in finance. And my intention was to share a little bit of what I've been able to learn my whole life and put together and help other women to understand their finances. And I mentioned earlier that came out of a group that I had formed about 12 years ago. And the reason it comes up is because at some point in your life, as men and women, but obviously I know women better, and I spent more time focused on helping women with their finances, because what I find is as I get older and I do more research, at some point in time, women typically are the ones that become single, whether it's through divorce or by choice or because they become a widow at some point. And it may not be that you're single for a long time or you're single because you choose to be single, but if you are single and you are a lady out there who doesn't understand their finances, you have a very quick and steep learning curve that generally takes place when you do have to take over your finances. And I'm not saying that you have to control your finances in your household. That's not it at all. You just need to understand it. You need to understand where things are, what you have, what you don't have, and what you should have, and how all the pieces fit together. And that's really what the book was designed to do, to say, hey, listen, when you become single, or even now while you're not single, if you're not single, this is the guide, this is the manual to say, this is how these pieces fit together, and these are the terminologies that you need to understand. Like when you start to hear all these acronyms, you can look it up and say, oh yeah, right here in my book, this is RRSP, stands for Registered Retirement Savings Plan, and this is what it means. And you are going to be able to look at that and understand it and feel more competent and more confident when you're talking to your financial advisor if you have one, or you're going to feel more empowered when you go get a financial advisor. So you're going to have a conversation rather than have somebody just start talking to you and not talking with you about your own stuff. So that's what I was sharing with you tonight. I will certainly share more, and hopefully you'll all be okay with that. I'll be back on sharing more of the information that's in the book, different topics that as we continue to go down this journey together, we'll share more information on Women Wise, because the website is just being redesigned now, and we'll be back up and operational with all the free downloads and printables. And I'm just happy to give all that stuff away because I think it's important that I have the information, I can share it with people, save you the time and effort and money that it took me to get my education and do all the research and all the reading. So I'm happy to give that and share that with you all for free. I will certainly be giving away some books as we go on. My sister, Karen, who you've all had the chance to get to know over the last few weeks, she's going to be working with me over the next few months to continue to plug in and co-host on as we need her for the show, and keep that momentum going and keep that understanding going, because she's got I know some great shows coming up on that we've talked about. And don't think that I've disappeared. I have not. I actually work with Karen and help her with some of the content. So I'm actually part of the show. You just don't hear me. And I will be back on the show and taking over. But for now, I have a couple of speaking engagements that I'm going to go talk to go do because of the book. And apparently that's what happens when you write the book. You get to go do speaking engagements and talk to other ladies and share the information. So that was kind of a cool discovery to come up with. And I'm going to definitely be on the Financially Speaking on the Inspired Choices Network. I want to thank Mary David Parrish for having me on her show on the Inspired Choices Network. She is amazing. If you have not heard her show, you want to hear her show. She is the Parent Whisperer, and she's right here on Financially Speaking on the same network. And she does a great job helping parents and talk to them about children and parenting issues and parenting tricks and tips. So we want to listen, if you have children, or if you're thinking of having children, or if you have nieces or nephews, or if you have grandchildren, or if you were a child and you want to understand this, then you should listen to Mary's show as well. Next week we have a show coming up, and we're going to have a guest on, and it's called What the Health? And our guest is Jennifer Kellett. She is an entrepreneur in the healthcare industry. This is a great show because I know we have American listeners, and there is, and I know sometimes I've talked about, Canadian concepts, but they're similar in the United States. Healthcare and how you look after yourself, the difference might be how it's financially done, but across the board, we all have needs for healthcare and have people looking after us. We certainly can relate to each other regardless of country, language, religion. We know when we get older or if we have a health scare that we need somebody that's there and experienced. And you're going to have a great show next week with Jennifer Kellett, because she is an entrepreneur and owner of her own business, and it is 100% focused on healthcare and looking after people. So you don't want to miss that. That will be very exciting. And I know I'll be listening in, and I might even call in. You never know, because if I have the opportunity, I certainly like to be part of it. So that is our plan going forward. I'm happy that we've had such a great response from everybody, and always feel free to call or call in or email if you want any information or you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them, as are any of the hosts actually on the Inspired Choices Network, because this network exists to help other people to do better, to live better, and to be healthier financially, spiritually, and emotionally. So I encourage everybody to, the network, if you're interested in even being a host. I encourage you, if you have an idea, then you should really click on the chat button and talk to Christine, our owner at Inspired Choices Network. She is a phenomenon to work with, and she has just got the energy of Energizer Bunny, for those of you who are old enough to remember that commercial. She's just so great and so good with working. So if there's any of you out there that are thinking, geez, I'd like to be a show host, or I have this great idea, but I don't know how to put it together, you want to talk to Christine. So don't hesitate. It doesn't cost you anything to talk to her. So get the information and talk to her. Join the club here at the Inspired Choices Network. Thank you all for listening and letting me share tonight. I hope you picked up a little tip or trick or a bit of information, even if it was just getting a will. We'll be right back here every week doing our show on Financially Speaking, and I am looking forward to talking to you all very, very soon and sharing more information and financial concepts. Have a great night.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Financially Speaking Radio Show. Kathy Cook Noble will return next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Mountain, and 1 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by making the choices that bring you all that you desire.